As a small business owner, you deserve more. More confidence, more connectivity, more of the tools that help your business thrive. And at Cox Business, you can expect more from us. We don't just have sales reps. We have perfect plan identifiers. People who will work with you to make sure your business gets everything it needs and nothing that it doesn't. Your business deserves more, and that's why you can expect more from Cox Business. Call 800-526-8572 to switch today.
There's nothing more predictable in life than the unexpected. Lightning will always strike. Hail will fall on roofs. Fortunately, there's AAA. AAA has been helping members stay prepared for over 100 years. So when unusual storms, fallen debris, or sudden leaks happen, you'll be covered. Check, check, and check. Get the home and auto insurance you need by talking with a AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com/insurance or stop by your local AAA store.
If you prefer real mornings, shouldn't you have a real breakfast? At McDonald's, we get real about breakfast. That's why you can have a savory sausage biscuit with delicious hash browns for only $1.50. It's time to wake up breakfast. Single item at regular price. Prices and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
Thoughts of suicide may feel impossible to overcome. But with help and support, you can find hope and meaning. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK to speak to a counselor, or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. It's free, it's confidential, it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if it feels like it, you're not alone.
It's been a long, bumpy ride sitting back in the saddle. It's time to get down, dirty up our knees in the battle. Oh, come on, round up the boys, gonna make the walls rattle. Oh, our flag is tattered and our bones are shattered, but it doesn't matter 'cause we're moving forward. Round them up, let's go. Round them up, let's go.
Well, it's another friggin' Monday, isn't it? Sup, Orty? Hey, I don't know, we're back on Cyber Wars. We got a little bit of a crowd in the chat. Hey, chat. Hey, chat. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, no, they... Oh, does he? That's funny. That sounds like Rick to me, to be honest. Huh? Okay, well, I'm going to pretend that I have no idea why. Say something.
Okay.
Okay, they can hear you now.
Something?
Yeah, they can hear you now. So anyway,
Okay.
but I'm still going to pretend like I have no idea why, and it wasn't like something that I didn't click on the deck.
All right.
So
anyway, we were talking about the inside joke with KLRN and that fucking rooster. And how it's a meme, and how it's a station meme now.
And I never even thought, I mean, it's a commercial. So I never even thought about how fake that rooster is until Orty said something about it. And now it drives me crazy because the rooster is friggin' fake.
You can't not hear it.
I know. Especially,
it's like I pointed out last Friday, and for those, if we go to break, and if you hear the suicide prevention commercial, listen in the second half of it. You can hear a single prop plane flying over wherever they recorded that. So it's kind of this background noise. And once I heard it, now I can't not hear it. Now I'm going to make everybody hear it now too.
Right, I know. Damn it, Orty.
Yeah.
Yes,
ruining people's lives. How you doing, Lou?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm like behind on shit and you know how that is. It's like you're constantly thinking about, I gotta catch up. It's like you're in a constant sprint. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well. How about you, Orty? How was your week?
I'm doing good. You know what I did this weekend was I completely broke down my computer, blew it all out, blew out all the components, reformatted all my drives, started with a fresh start, and it's the first time in a long time I got to do that because it wasn't some hardware emergency, or like I didn't have a show I had to get to in a few hours, or I didn't have, people say, hey, let's go play some video games or something. So I just took the weekend, took my time putting it all back in right, got really anal retentive with the file structure and everything. It feels really good. I also installed voice meter, so if you hear a difference in my voice for over the last weeks, then that's why.
You definitely sound clearer tonight. It's an improvement. Yeah, you definitely sound clearer
tonight.
So,
and then when my new microphone comes in tomorrow, I'll sound really good on Wednesday.
Yeah, well,
or as good as I can possibly get.
You're coming through the deck like really, like with a lot of gains. I was having to turn you down a little bit. So,
really, okay.
Yeah, and no, I mean it's not a bad thing. It's like because I have to turn. Most people, I have to turn them up beyond me because as the little old ladies in Sunday school used to say, your voice carries.
That's the polite Southern way to say shh.
You're a loudmouth.
Right.
Mouth of the South.
It's the more polite version of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, right? And the little
bless your heart, your voice carries.
Yes, and the little ladies from my hometown had so many of those little sayings. Your voice carries. Yeah, that's my favorite ones. But so that sounds like, I mean, that's like when you get to that place where you just like wipe everything and something's new, or when you get a new machine, everything's new and there's like not all that crap clogging it up and files on the desktop that you need to file away somewhere and crap like that. It's like, it's a good feeling.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And it's just, everything is just smoother. I wanted to test it out for a while, and we talked about it before the show. I migrated from Chrome to Edge. I just wanted to see what an out-of-the-box experience would be like. With somebody with no expectations, just getting a brand new machine and doesn't have a bias towards a browser. So I'm going to use it for a month and see how I like it. Already, I like it better than Chrome. But I think it's just because I hate Chrome so viscerally.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you use it, and especially if you use it exclusively, right, for a while, you start to notice all the like little bloaty things about it and how it, slows some stuff down and
I'm glad you said something before the show because Twitter was running like shit on Edge too, and I'm like, okay, is it an extension I'm running? Is it? And you said no, Twitter's running like shit, and it has to do with the scheduled tweet thing that we were talking about. So. That's good. I know that wasn't Chrome's fault because I was having to reload or just shut down Chrome and restart it 4 or 5 times a day.
The iPhone app has been buggy for a few days now. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
for a couple weeks in Chrome, and then I noticed just before I took my computer down this weekend that they popped up a new thing in Chrome where you get the direct messages down in your bottom right corner if you're using Twitter for web, rather than, instead of just hitting the messages thing, but you can also bring up a pop-up.
mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, that's probably slowing down too, because in Chrome, that's probably another 30 or 40 processes.
Right. Yeah, probably. So, we've got a lot of stuff to get to tonight.
We do, and here we are just chit-chatting.
Well, that's okay. We can chit-chat, but we've got like 5 different things that we wanted to talk about, and I don't really care where we start, so let's do the beer story first. That's a fun story. So my
beer story.
My beer.
That's important.
Yeah. Yes.
That is important.
Because what's shrimp on the Barbie without the beer? But Australia is having a little bit of problem with their beer inventory because the biggest brewer was attacked by a ransomware attack. So they have hackers with a ransomware attack have really done probably one of the worst things in the world that they could do to Australians right now with all the shit going on. They can't get their friggin' beer.
Yeah, in an update on Monday, the Lion Beverage Company said that its IT teams and cybersecurity advisors had made good progress in mitigating the incident, but it still has slowed down the production and distribution of their beers, their brands.
Yeah, and what makes you want to cry is the part that says, we are hoping to get a number of our breweries back up and running very soon. They have breweries that aren't running? That is a tragedy.
Yeah, and that is, I mean, you think about it, they probably just got back to work after the COVID shutdowns.
Right. Probably.
So, they're probably just getting back to work, getting their production ramped up. Couldn't have had more than 2 weeks of production running. And then, they get hit down by ransomware.
I know. It's horrible. It is horrible.
People were a bad idea.
People were a horrible idea. Beer was a good idea. Yeah, I know, but this is just so sad.
A bad idea.
This may be this one probably made me more emotional than anything since the Children's Hospital got DDoSed. I think, and that was
the beer company.
That was years ago. Yeah, this is sad.
It is. Beer lives matter.
Beer lives do matter. So don't go to Australia because they're short on beer.
Yeah, if you were planning on taking that Australian vacation, be aware there is a beer shortage.
There's a beer shortage.
And they are likely to riot. So while we're on the beverage train, Tim Hortons.
So this is a really interesting thing, and if you listen to Al's show Friday night, he covered the Tim Hortons app because it's one of his favorite places. I think it's a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning tradition with him and the dog.
Something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember which. But so he covered this the Tim Hortons application. There was a guy that requested the data that they had been tracking and found that they had tracked him literally everywhere, including their competitors. They had basically, so this is what happens. What he did was he gave the Tim Hortons app access to his location all the time. So, it pops up on your phone and it says, this app wants access to your location while using the app all the time or never. So if you want to give an app access to your location for any reason whatsoever, only do it while you're using the app. Because if they do what they were doing to him, they will have at least violated the terms of service, and you can say cut it out. Report them to the Google store or Apple or whatever, but they were pinging his phone, was that like every few minutes.
Yeah, and some of the data he collected would be like, the amount that they were recording him. It's like one time the JSON contacted the RBI server at 9:04 a.m. He had already been at work for 44 minutes by then, so he wasn't going to be in the coffee shop. He wasn't going to be. So it's just kind of, they were pinging him all the time. It's like even when he went on vacation. Where did he say he went on vacation? Somewhere in Africa,
overseas. I think it was it the Caribbean, maybe.
Let me see. I'll keep.
Or Europe or somewhere. He was out. Was it Barbados or
Morocco?
Morocco.
They even saw him tracking it. They even saw it. Even saw them tracking him in Morocco.
Okay,
where he went for a vacation a year before.
And they were getting his GPS location like down to the 10th digit or something like that. Like they got him down to the corner of his building, which you have to go to like the 10th, at least the 10th digit to do that. So they were pinging his phone, and basically that's a cell tower pings your phone. So they were using the cell carrier service through the application to ping his phone, and they use a third-party service for this that does it for a lot of applications.
Generally Google location services you can tie in with them to, like with Google, and since Google is always pinging you, you can piggyback on their data collection,
right? And
vice versa.
This was another third party that does like basically like this kind of marketing intrusion, basically, because it is very, very intrusive. And so they were pinging his phone almost as much as your cell carrier does, and your cell carrier pings your phone that much. But
a lot,
a lot. But if
it has to,
right? But if the government or anybody else wants that information, they need a friggin' warrant to get it. That's per the Supreme Court. Well, basically, they don't need a warrant to get any of it, which is wrong. They should, but they need a warrant to get like more than 6 days of it. So and this app is doing it to people constantly. But the thing to remember is the reason it was doing that is because unknowingly he didn't realize that he was giving them permission to do that when he said, yes, you can have access to my location all the time instead of just while using the app. So I
don't know how Apple asks it, but when you use it on an Android device, it'll ask, Tim Horton's application wants to use Google location services. Do you want to allow it? And you'll say yes. And sometimes, like, what's really weird is why the weather app, the one that I want to use it all the time, keeps shutting off, but Tim Hortons apparently will stay on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and sometimes, and we've talked about this before on the, you can see that in the forensic data that they don't necessarily always follow what you ask them to do. But if they're not, you can complain. And that's one reason, that there are laws now that you can ask for your data and see what they're doing so that you can go back and complain about what they're doing if it's not what they said they were doing. However, I mean, if that was the case with an Android, if that's the case, then I would probably just tell it no. And if you open it and it needs it, then it'll ask you for it again, or you can just friggin' turn it off. And if that's not good enough, why are you using that app? I mean, because this is seriously intrusive. This is basically, and again, something else that the Supreme Court basically said, but then they didn't really rule that way, but they basically said this is kind of equivalent of having a GPS tracker on your car. Well, it is. It's exactly equivalent of having a GPS tracker on your car.
It also goes into your house, your shopping,
exactly. You can't walk. You can't walk anywhere. I mean, it's like having a.
You were at the pistol counter at the Cabela's, and
You might as well have a chip implanted as much as
Sure.
we carry our cell phones, right? You do have the option to keep it at home. You also have the option to keep it in a Faraday bag. Because if you have if you have it in a signal blocking bag or a Faraday bag or any other type of signal blocking bag, then it cannot track you. The other option is to turn your radio off. You turn the radio signal off. Basically, put it in airplane mode. And they also can't track you in airplane mode. You can't use your phone, but they can't track you. So
you can if you're on a Wi-Fi network, because it's like one of the things that I do when my cell phone, it stops being a cell phone, but I still use it as a small tablet. I turn on airplane mode so that way it stops looking for text messages and for a carrier signal.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a very good point. So
now another couple companies who did this, because the data was searched on AWS servers, Amazon Web Services. The data that he received was compiled from Tim Hortons, Burger King, and Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen brands.
Yeah, because they're all owned by the same parent company.
Correct. Yeah. So
they all got his data, and they tracked him to the competitors. They had, where he had gone in a Starbucks or where he had gone in a Wendy's.
Yeah, I could see the little text message pop up. Why are you in a Dunkin' Donuts, Dave?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, basically, you're turning over to a third party, and they've not tried this, right? But I do not put it past the government to issue a subpoena to a company that you have the app on your phone, right? So, I mean, this is it's a third party that aggregates this. How do we know that they're not feeding that to the government, or that they don't have it, on a server that, people that the government could get their hands on? Or
sure. Yeah. So they can't get you to open your iPhone legally. So they see that you have the Burger King app. So they just subpoena Burger King.
Right, exactly. So, and I mean, we used to, there's some level, well, maybe not us so much, but there's not the same level of distrust for our government in the past, because we have courts and they force you to get things like warrants and court orders and things like that, and follow the law to some extent. But right now, with everything that's going on, I don't trust what the government is going to be a year from now or 2 years from now. I don't trust any of that. As a matter of fact, I was shopping for Faraday bags because I don't use one, but I'm about to start. And
it's like I say, I just don't talk my sedition around my phone or my Alexas.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I don't even leave my house that often, to be honest with you. I mean, I am one of the world's largest introverts. I mean, I just don't go anywhere. I'm perfectly happy here. People were a mistake. I don't need to interact with them. But it doesn't matter. I don't want to be pinged so that people know that I'm at home when I don't necessarily want them to know that. I don't trust anything that's happening right now. That's a whole nother story.
Well, the other extent to the, where you said, the government, we'll just put that behemoth in air quotes. The laws of man have not caught up to the laws of technology yet.
No.
And that's a lot of the problem, too, is that we're writing laws for tech, in 2000. We're writing 9/11 laws for tech when,
it's at least 10 years
Get up
behind.
to current year.
Yeah, it's at least 10, if not 15 years behind. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's never, and especially from what I've learned in the past half semester or two, I don't think it will ever catch up, because by the time they get it passed and signed, it's already, 5 years behind. Even if they were writing laws right now for the state of technology as it is, by the time they got it passed and signed, it would be 5 years behind.
Well, yeah. Yeah. because you have to write the law, then you have to send it to a focus group, and then you have to put a whole bunch of pork in it, and then you have to go run your campaign for 6 to 8 months, and then you come back and you forget that you had the law in your drawer.
And they're trying to write,
because you made a whole bunch of new crazy campaign promises.
No, they're trying to write encryption law right now, and they have been for quite a while, and they can't do it because they don't understand it well enough, and the people that do really don't want to help them that much. Well, the NSA probably is perfectly fine helping them, but maybe they're not. It's like, Well,
this goes to what we talked about last week, is that, the public sector doesn't get the best techs because they're getting, federal scale.
Yeah.
Or state scale. They're not getting private industry scale. So, the techs they have, you either got the trope of the hacker that was caught and forced to serve his time working for the FBI, which, or.
And I'll be quite honest,
like
knowing something about that culture, they're not the smartest guys out there either. And the NSA, I think probably has some of the smartest techs.
Because they're spooks.
Yeah, they're spooks. And
they're
paid.
Spooks who went to STEM, not the other way around.
Well, that's true to some extent, but they also have very well paid contractors. And the contractors that work for the NSA are freaking brilliant, and they recruit. They do a good job recruiting because they have, there's a certain appeal there because of the tools, and with the CIA too, I think, because of the tools and the access that they have, and the fact that you have immunity to do things that other people get arrested for. So
sure.
There's that. So there's some. So I think that in those corners there's an extreme level of talent. But when we were talking about it the other day, we were talking about IT level guys, right? We were talking about IT security, and that was the whole reason that came up to begin with, because they were loaning people from the NSA to other
or the
departments,
FBI or CIA,
right? So the people that actually have got recruited for that, for those benefits that they get that they can't get somewhere else. But yeah, so speaking of no, that's not what we were going to do next. So
you want to do the tracker apps before we go to commercial?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. Very good, Ordy. You've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah, I almost have. This is another one that Al touched on his show last week. It's kind of funny that there was actually an article posted this week, and it's like they listened to his show and got the idea for it, that during the past few weeks with the civil unrest, that police scanner apps and police tracking apps have seen a 300% increase in downloads.
Yeah, I'm responsible for a couple of those. Yeah.
You're part of that too?
Yeah.
According to
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I downloaded a couple of scanners, and I was listening.
Yeah, and Al talked about police scanner apps, and they're they are really handy, and they're actually kind of fun to listen to. But yeah, when you start to see a lot of traffic on notifications on like Citizens and Neighbors or your local police scanner app, then some shit's going down somewhere. So it would behoove you to tune in to see what's going on.
Yeah, and then there was something in this same article too about the police tracking and Signal encrypted apps, and
it talks about One Citizens and Neighbors, which is an app that is affiliated with Amazon's Ring security cameras, and this keeps track of police crime activity in neighborhoods with neighbors messaging services like Nextdoor and so on like that. And this one saw the biggest spike with 325% or 306,000 downloads between the weeks of May 27th to June 10th. Now, it's kind of like they talked to this one person from Emeryville, California, that when the looting hit, in the shopping centers in late May, she was able to use citizens to track where the protests were and to know that her business was actually safe.
That's a bonus, I suppose.
Yeah, the downside of it is that this one, citizens actually, because of Amazon Ring does work closely with law enforcement. So that's really not the one you want to have on you if you are worried about police misusing an app against you, like we've talked about a few minutes ago.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to be kept up with, then yeah, absolutely. And the thing about this is, the one thing that I'll say is that there is in the Fourth Amendment, there's a third-party exception to the Fourth Amendment. So if you willingly share certain information with a third party, then you basically waived your Fourth Amendment right to that privacy. With a cell phone, the court pretty much said, yeah, no, we're not buying that with the cell phone because, first of all, there's a safety and a rights issue, a safety issue with cell phones.
There's an expectation of privacy.
Well, there's a safety issue with cell phones. Everybody carries one these days because it's a safety. You can't opt out of your cell phone carrier pinging your phone every few minutes or 60 seconds or whatever they're doing, depending on where you are, and tracking your movements. So you can't waive your Fourth Amendment right when it comes to your cell phone and your cell phone carrier. However, if you choose to download an app and that app is tracking you, you have willingly shared that information with a third party. So that's just a heads up to everybody that's doing that. So if Ring is cooperating with law enforcement, it's because they can, because you've chosen to share information with them, and it is not a violation of your Fourth Amendment right. That's kind of scary, isn't it?
That's a bit scary.
Yeah.
But on the other end of it, with watching the Watchers, was the one thing that the protesters did to track police movement, but also what regular citizens were doing was police scanner apps in and of themselves. In the week of May 28th to June 3rd, there were 1.2 million downloads with the three most popular police scanner apps. There's Police Scanner, Live Police, and Police Scanner Radio and Fire. And what a lot of people started listening to was, if they weren't, they were kind of, gawking at where the riots were going and everything, but they also wanted to hear what the police were saying about the rioters. And that's why a lot of people were listening in to see, if they were actually, to see what the cops are actually saying about the rioters.
I imagine there was a buttload of human rights and First Amendment lawyers listening in.
I'm sure.
Yep, I absolutely am.
I'm sure. Every ambulance chaser that fancies themselves as a Froggy from Daredevil was that's an obscure reference, but I'm sure that they had their AirPods plugged in and they didn't leave their house for a week.
Now, it also said, absolutely. It also said that Signal, which is an encrypted messenger, and it is, I will say, it's better than, it's tighter than Telegram. It's definitely better than WhatsApp. Both Telegram and Signal are better than WhatsApp. Don't use WhatsApp. Except it's probably the only one that you can use if you're talking to someone in China. That tells you everything about an encrypted messenger, by the way. But none of them are really completely safe from the government. I don't expect.
Yeah, there's some that will delete the messages after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
I mean, not just from your equipment and from the sender's equipment, but also from the servers. But those are pretty far and few between. Signal's talking about doing that now. A lot of the protesters were using Signal to encrypt their text messages. Like we were laughing about a couple weeks ago. Well, there's your iPhone 11.
Yeah.
Some of them were using Signal. I'm pretty sure most of the kids weren't because they were posting on TikTok anyway.
Well, yeah,
So,
and that's the thing. So they're talking through Signal, and they're talking with their, organizers and stuff like that. And they
they're
keep saying,
coordinating through Signal.
yeah, they're coordinating their movements and things like that through Signal. But then they're using a cell phone to do it, and they're moving around, and their cell phone's getting tracked anyway. I mean, it's really kind of silly. They can't get all of your messages and prove that you are doing this, that, and the other thing. But the government, from time to time, has backdoors into all of those things. So, it's the level of encryption in these things is good, but it's not good enough. And so there's a limit to how safe you are with them now. This is for our audience. Antifa, if you're listening, just turn your ears off, pretend you didn't hear that. But yeah, I mean, it's just, that's not like they're going to stop using it, but there's some safety with those, and then
there's also
you never
holes.
know. Yeah, there's also there can be holes, and you just never know. So, but I mean, they're carrying a cell phone, so they're getting tracked. Their faces, their faces are showing on CCTV that's everywhere. That they're not unknown to the government. So, it helps them a little bit, but not a whole lot. So, it's past the bottom of the hour. You want to take a break?
Yeah, we should. I mean, we started a couple minutes after, so yeah, we can take a break and come back and deep dive into Dark Hotel.
Oh, yeah, that'll be fun. All right,
Yeah.
We'll be right back, you guys.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Alrighty, we are back. So what was that about Elon Musk again?
The Starlink satellites are. He's actually going to be beta testing his internet service this year, and it won't work in the cities because it's just too dense. But like in rural and suburban areas, like you and I live in, Lou, that's gigabit service for probably 80, 100 bits a month.
Sweet.
Right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, absolutely. So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, commercial break conversation bleeding into the...
a little bit. But that is quite all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dark Hotel that we've talked about on this show before, and if you remember, it was, do you remember the hack? It was around a specific hack, but we talked about them in terms of the espionage that they do around. The reason that they're called Dark Hotel by some people is that they use like hotel Wi-Fi, cracking hotel Wi-Fi to carry out espionage operations on, diplomats and state leaders,
businesses, and defense contractors. Yeah,
that should jog your memory about who we're talking about. But we found a deep dive of them, and they're as you definitely know, already one of the groups that I'm really fascinated with, because they believe that they behave like a state-sponsored actor. Most people believe that they are, the vast majority believe that they are a state-sponsored, but nobody can attach them to a specific country. And for this reason, they are fascinating to me, because most APTs don't, get away with maintaining that level of OPSEC for very long.
Yeah, and this group has been around for almost a decade. They started 2014, so they're in 6 years now. Yeah, they're known to target sectors of telecommunications, manufacturing, finance, pharmaceuticals, automotive, defense, law enforcement, militaries, and NGOs. Pretty much anybody who's staying at a hotel in the Western Pacific is somebody they're going to try and target. Yeah, they want all the information.
Yeah. So they use, the other fascinating thing about them to me is the sheer number and complexity of the exploits that they use. It's just, it's a large number of different malware and remote access Trojans and zero-day exploits and backdoors that, it's basically that their tools kit is pretty infinite. It's almost as if there's an exploit out there, they will use it at some point.
Yeah, this one that was recently uncovered was a toolkit that they used that's called ransoms, that is tailored to work on collection and exfiltration in air-gapped networks.
Yeah, which is so air gap network is when basically when you create a barrier of distance and networks that aren't connected to each other, and there's at least some degree of distance, but they're not connected to each other, so it prohibits or
in some cases not even on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. They won't have an internet connection at all. But that supposedly will keep attackers from pivoting from something we've talked about a lot, from one network server to another network server, from a desktop computers into a network. So it's supposed to protect the information that's on that server. If you have an air gap server, it's separated from the network. Most of the time the internet, also the internet, and so therefore it's safe, but not always.
Yeah. So this group, it's believed to be a state actor. They're definitely Korean speaking. And their attacks against China, North Korea, Japan, and elements of Africa lead much of the community to believe that they are a South Korean hacking group. And one of their subgroups is called StarCraft. And this is what really makes me think that they are South Korean, because StarCraft, the video game, is the unofficial sport of South Korea. The esport for StarCraft... it's like American football to us. So that's what makes me think they're definitely South Korean.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's just it's weird for me to wrap my head around having the level of OPSEC that prohibits anyone from actually getting the evidence to say you absolutely are a South Korean group. I can't marry that with we've created names that point to the fact that we're a South Korean group. I can't put those two things together, because you don't. That's not what you do when you're practicing excellent OPSEC. You actually create names that point to you being someone that you're not. But I'm not saying
that could be false flag too, because there are. Some of their attacks has been using, some of the code in their malware was called SK Parasite, which is a nod to the Parasite, the Academy Award-winning movie, and NISK, which NIS is the National Intelligence Service of the People's Republic of Korea, South Korea.
Right.
So it's kind of like, either they're really trying to say, look, guys, we're here, or this is such an obvious false flag that it's like... You know what? That could even be oh my God, that's such an obvious false flag. They can't actually be South Korean, and they're going, we're actually South Korean.
I know, right? It's exactly. So my point was not that they're not South Korean. My point is that their OPSEC is such that, and their false flags are such that they're confusing. So they make you want to say, well, we think they're South Korean, but we really don't know because we can't find anything other than things that they've left for us that point to the fact that they're South Korean. Now, as we've talked about before, there's a lot of false attribution that happens in the industry. So inevitably, organizations or security groups and researchers will come along and say that is a South Korean group because they used, NISK in their but that's not actual evidence. That is, I was trying to think of the
deflection.
Word. Well,
it's like Rooster said in chat, double reverse psychology.
Exactly, Rooster. So but it's it might be it might be a level of indicator, but to me, it's a low level of indicator. But some people will say, well, that's a high level indicator. Well, maybe it is, maybe it's not, but that's opinion. It's not evidence. It's not fact. It's opinion. So,
well, and the thing that leads to them being state sponsored as well is that they are well established experts at spear phishing, and they research their target very well. You know, they're not casting out a wide net of just fishing. I mean, they are hyper focused on their targets, where it's believed that they're either using HUMINT or OSINT to get the information on who to target. You know, human intelligence or online signal intelligence.
Yeah,
open source
intelligence,
intelligence.
Which is like social media accounts or just basically Googling somebody or looking up their LinkedIn account or
where human intelligence would be following them into the actual hotel, seeing what kind of device they're working on, so they know what kind of kit to use on that, that type of stuff too. So I mean, it's
social engineering one of their coworkers or
right,
daughter or something. So but I mean, that they could be using any or all of those things. But that's another thing that just absolutely fascinates me about this group is that they use a 360 degrees of all the tools that are available they use technical tools, they use social engineering tools, they use OSINT tools, they use basically everything. They're like really awesome, a group of really awesome pen testers, right? I mean, they act like, not that South Koreans couldn't do this, but they act like American hackers. I'm not saying I'm not saying they are. There's absolutely no evidence that they are, but their OPSEC is, NSA level OPSEC. Their tools are great.
It's like one of the things that their subgroup StarCraft did was they were able to fingerprint Bluetooth devices using the Windows Bluetooth API. So I mean, that's opening up that exactly whose device that is, and that's opening up to being able to enter their phone via Bluetooth connection at will, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, even going beyond Wi-Fi, you think that cute little handy thing so that way your phone can talk to your speakers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, I don't know. This is just probably, in my mind, this is the most fascinating group out there.
Yeah, it's definitely especially for... being a Western Pacific hacker group that isn't specifically China, that is, usually you expect, sources and methods like this to come out of a major first world country like China.
I think these guys are more talented. I think these guys are.
What?
These guys are all around way more talented than any Chinese hacker group or Russian hacker group in my mind, because of the level of social engineering and things like that I think that they're doing. I just think they're better, and they're OPSEC.
Right.
That's just it blows my mind. So
yeah, and it's like you said, is that this group acts like American hackers. They don't use the tried and true, toolkits. They use every arrow in the quiver.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and it's like another subgroup of theirs, Hig Asia. They were the ones responsible. We were talking about targeting attacks against the World Health Organization earlier this year.
Yeah. Now these are groups that they have that have been, for the most part, attributed to them, not that they've claimed, right? Because there are no claims by this group.
True. And this was the group that used the SK Parasite and NISK tool malware code in their malware code.
Yeah. And I don't mean to second guess what some of the groups that have worked on this and done these attributions are, top notch, not CrowdStrike. They're like top notch groups, and they do a really great job. So I don't mean to completely second guess what they're doing, but I don't know specifically who made that attribution of that subgroup to them. So, I just tend to be a little bit, I question everything, I guess.
Sure.
This group
a lot of it came from the fact that they have similar targets. They're targeting the
Yeah.
same groups. So, all three
Right.
of these things are targeting the same group. So that's where it's kind of like, okay, so, their methodology may be different, but their target is the same, and they're not tripping over each other like we joked about with the Russians doing in the
Right.
DCCC and DNC servers.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny, like, Keystone Cop kind of thing. But they are an
Right.
extremely fascinating group that you should, if you follow any of this stuff or you're interested in it, just keep an eye out for Dark Hotel because they are extremely interesting. What else did we have? You know what we
let's
did?
see, a quick hit.
Go ahead.
You want to do the extortionists, the
Yeah,
fake?
that's exactly where I went. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because this is really funny because it's a ransom attack, but it's not a real ransom attack. It's basically...
Yeah, this one's more of a... Yeah, this is kind of like... It's kind of like phishing, where, they did a couple, a broad who is search, for web hosts, or domains, and they would send them a blackmail message saying, pay us between 1,500 and 3,000 bitcoins, or we'll release your database and their reputation will be destroyed. And there's no evidence that they had any of this information. It was like a Nigerian prince scam.
Right. Yeah, and that's the funny thing about it. And like all the things that they threatened to do were funny. Like we're gonna Google bomb you and unindex all your sites so nobody will be able to find you on the internet. Like who does that?
Right.
What kind of threat
the one thing is
that?
that the one thing that in the write up on this is from Bleeping Computer too. The ransom note itself, they commented on how good the English was in it. Usually when you see things like this, there will be some grammatical errors or some, word usage that isn't, common American vernacular. But this what they said, the ransom note was very well written.
Well, and that's a really good point because this particular scam right here reeks of summer skid to me. And one thing that I've noticed, particularly on Twitter and Reddit and a couple other places, but mostly Twitter, is that because school ended early, because all the schools closed, the summer skid activity is ridiculous. Now, a summer skid...
Sure, it's been going on since February, and they're getting more bored.
More bored every day. Summer camps are... Some places they're happening, some places they're not. But they're like, these kids... I'm like, seriously? And I mean, like, some of the dumber anons out there are posting audio of, like, owning kids on video games and, like, scaring the shit out of these kids. And I'm like... Okay, that's funny, but it's not. And if I was that kid's mom, I would be hunting you down.
Right.
But I'm not that kid's mom, and that kid is a little summer skid, so I'm not going to get too upset about it. But that's wrong, right? And I mean, it's just like everywhere. You don't even have to look very hard and to see it, and it's just ridiculous. And this scam right here reeks of summer skid to me because it's just like, we're going to Google bomb you. Okay, kid.
Right. Yeah, we're going to troll you. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing, it's like they wrapped up at the end of the article with, it's like, if this was a real ransom, then the database, they don't care about the information on a random website about the data, what's in the database. They're going to scramble the database and say, now you give us $3,000 worth of Bitcoins, or, real ones, $30,000 worth of Bitcoins, and we will give you the encryption.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to take your site down. But I mean, even that kind of stuff isn't really that helpful anymore because everybody's got backups, right? So,
Right.
No, I'm going to take the site down. I'm going to wipe the site and you're going to be gone. And I'm going to restore it from a backup. And, I'm going to look at the logs.
Yeah, I may lose a day's worth of traffic.
Right. But I'm not going to pay you $30,000. And I mean, I got to be a pretty doggone big site that you probably wouldn't have gotten into to begin with if a day's
Right.
worth of traffic, it's going to cost me $30,000. So
It's the kind of thing that if they were to find vulnerability on our website, even if they didn't find a vulnerability, they would just send us an email,
Right.
for the KLRN website and say, oh, send us $3,000 in Bitcoin or, fuck off, kid.
Right. And I have, because we've done this a few times, they leaked an IP, like these kids leaked an IP in my logs somewhere. So we would take the site down and we would restore it from a backup, and I'd have their IP address somewhere in my logs, and I'd find it. Right? Because it's not like the way that we're set up. I can see who's doing what, right? We automatically block anybody that's trying to get the code that they're not supposed to get to anyway. So, it's a stupid scam. It's like the dumbest scam ever. It's the dumbest scam ever, and that's why it reached.
And nobody's falling for it. That's according to who was the let's see, SEO threats. According to WebArcs, they said they reported finding the scam, but nobody's paid it.
But nobody's falling for it. And there you go. So it's summer. And we'll probably have a couple more of these before it's over. So,
Sure.
Then let's talk before we go. Let's talk about that thing that we found that we might do a deep dive into next week if it's turns out to be sketchy.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about this. What it is about is a hacker for hire group known as Dark Basin. We're on the Darks right now. We did Dark Hotel, now we're doing Dark Basin. Where they have been attributed with attacking eco groups, climate change groups.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the such. And as reported, over 1,000 different attacks.
Yeah, and phishing attacks, of course, because, that's
the best way.
It's a very popular way to hack things. So they were found because they went after a climate activist campaign you may have seen on Twitter that was called Exxon New, right? So if you've seen the Exxon New hashtag, and I meant to ask you, Orty, had you seen that before this came up? Because I know you follow. Huh. So supposedly, all these climate activists went after Exxon because some information was leaked that they knew about climate change or something like that, which I'm sure it was pretty much BS, but it certainly looked like it, and they just went on a full-fledged attack against Exxon. And a journalist that was involved in it was getting a lot of targeted phishing emails. So he went to this group called Citizen Lab. It's out of Canada at the University of Toronto. And correct me if I get any of this wrong.
I'm following along, yeah.
Yeah, at the University of Toronto, Citizen Lab. My problem with this is that, so in the report itself, the Citizen Lab doesn't come out and say that they believe that Exxon or someone involved in Exxon might have been responsible for hiring this group in Beltrox in India to send these phishing attacks and attack these activists and journalists. But they don't come right out and say it, but they drop some pretty heavy hints. And some of the other attacks that happened, or some of the other hacking campaigns that went on, because there's a few of them, and one is a telecommunications company out of Germany. They don't come right out and say that they think they were behind it, but who has a vested interest in it? They hint to it. And my problem with this is that the same person who funds climate activism funds this group, Citizen Lab. That's my problem with this report. It's one of them.
Yeah, a lot of Citizen Labs funding comes from anti-oil industry groups. We'll put that into a
from
umbrella. That's a pretty broad brush to paint with. But
from open societies, they get a big chunk of money from Open Society Group, as we know.
And when you get into open society, that's when you start to get into the Sunrise Movement, and Occupy or Justice Democrats, and
and all that, the Green New Deal, all of that, right? So, and this campaign, right? The Exxon knew, the supposed hacking that and phishing campaigns that happened were all in the Green New Deal kind of time frame. So it's
all of this happened around that. Yeah,
it feels
starting in
it feels as much to me like Guccifer 2 as anything ever has.
It feels a little Jussie.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Yeah, a little Jussie Smollett.
Well, any of that. You could put any of that to it. But it feels like the DNC hack. Russia. I mean, but now it's India. Right? So,
and especially when, and then an Israeli man is being investigated in relation to this too, so. Actually he's been charged.
Right, the private investigator. Now, I don't doubt that private investigators could have been using this firm to do whatever they were doing for their clients. But the whole, the Exxon thing, there's something just doesn't sit right with me, and it may be because I am way too skeptical and just don't buy it. One of the problems that I have with it is the complete lack of evidence. There is not enough real raw evidence in this report to make the assumptions that they're making, and that's one problem that I have with it. So if
that's it's I got a lot of targeted phishing attacks on me. Well, on my AOL account, I got that was 10 times a day.
Right. It's exactly.
So,
some of my
look in your spam. You've got 100 targeted phishing attacks against you sitting in your spam box right now.
Our host the host that I use for the websites that I work with and the email that I run for people does a better job of filtering out spam and phishing attacks and things like that. But I bet I still get at least 5 a day. So I don't know if he was getting like 30 an hour or something like that. I mean, I just can't imagine. It didn't sound like that was the kind of campaign that they were running because it's very targeted. Right. So, and I mean, the description of them, you would read them and think, my God, they know something about me, right? From the way that they're talking, they were very targeted. But there is a lack. So as a layperson, like, one of my sisters would read this and go, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. I read it and said, where's the evidence, right? So you've made this assumption and you've not shown me a link or a screenshot or anything. There's basically 2 artifacts, which is, just the a clue like a fingerprint or, it's a DNA or whatever. So there's basically 2 artifacts in this entire report. And if you printed the report, it would probably be 25 pages. So it's like...
Which is why we weren't able to get to it for the show tonight.
Exactly. So I've got issues with that, and I'm digging into it, and some other people are digging into it. So if we turn up anything, this will be Like, we'll talk about it next week if we turn up anything.
You got Stacy on it?
No, I have a classmate on it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
given the way she digs into Sunrise,
yeah, exactly.
She might be interested in that too.
Yeah, I know. I should that and get somebody looking at it from a not technical perspective. That would be
sure.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. All right, so I guess that's like our show tonight.
Yeah, we are way over, but hey, great show.
Yeah, it's 11:11. That's good luck. All right.
Are you from the future? It's 8:11.
I am from the future. Now
give me the lotto numbers.
No, it's my day. So, thank you all for joining us. We love you very much. Thanks for being in chat and keeping Orty entertained because I bore the hell out of him. We'll see you next Monday. Where are you going to be this week, Orty?
And Lou will be pretty. Hooray!
Wednesday night. They might have missed
you. Wednesday night.
Yeah, Wednesday night, right here at 9:00, and I'll be on Friday with my girls. So I'm starting to lose Orty a little bit, so we're going to get out of here, and we couldn't love you anymore. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. Good night.